Have you ever been on the dieting treadmill and wondered why so many diets fail? Do you know what scientific research now tells us about yo-yo dieting and weight regain? Do you sit down at mealtimes and eat with your family? Do you know what role mealtimes play in building healthier habits and stronger family relationships for us all? In a world where so many foods are packed with additives and preservatives, how can we all enjoy the occasional treat while still sticking to food that's wholesome and nutritious? And finally, how can we as parents or even grandparents role model healthy eating behaviors for our children or grandchildren without making food a source of conflict? I'm Kate Mason, and welcome to Parenting and Personalities. This is the podcast that connects you to the ones you care about the most. Today I'm talking to Dr. Nick Fuller from the Charles Perkins Centre at the University of Sydney. Nick specialises in the causes, prevention and treatment of obesity and related health issues such as diabetes and cardiovascular disease. His research covers a wide range of treatments, including dietary and exercise strategies, medical devices and bariatric surgery. Passionate about a holistic approach to obesity treatment, Nick aims to clear up misconceptions perpetuated by unqualified individuals in an unregulated industry. His work has led to policy changes and has been published in leading journals. He collaborates with both government and industry to create cost-effective solutions and has successfully commercialised research to improve global health. His interval weight loss program has gained recognition, including selection for the University of Sydney's Incubate program and several prestigious awards. Nick is also the best-selling author of 4 books, and his latest book, Healthy Parents, Healthy Kids, is our topic for discussion today. And I am so excited to discuss this topic because it impacts so many of us in a time when commercialised foods are becoming more toxic, people are time poor, and the natural healthy foods in our diet have never been more needed. Nick's here to share with us some practical research-based strategies that will help families prioritise health, break the cycle of food fussiness, and reframe the way we're thinking about our meals. So whether you're a parent or a grandparent and you're looking for some actionable advice, or someone who is interested in better understanding the science behind healthy eating, this conversation is packed with insights that you can use straight away. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and let's explore how many small changes in our approach to food can lead to the huge transformations for our families. Good morning, Nick. It's great to have you on the show today, and I'm really excited to have you here.
Look, I'm very excited to talk to you, and it's lovely to be a guest on your podcast. Thank you.
Thank you. Now let's start things off because you do a lot of research, and I'd love you to start. To start with, I'd love you to tell me what got you into research. Were you like that when you were a kid? And what kind of research do you do?
Well, I was always fascinated about, I guess, nutrition in the body, and that stemmed from my father's influence. I had a great passion for sport as well.
Yeah.
But look, I didn't start off in this sort of clinical academic space. I believe it or not, I actually started in the corporate world, providing advice for contestants that appear on these weight loss shows. And
Yeah.
I knew what we were doing was not great. And this is what, I guess, really drove me to move into an academic setting, research setting, and study what was happening within a person's body, because I could see that, people had no trouble losing weight, but at some point in time, they began to regain that weight, and there are a lot of, obviously, physical, mental health repercussions of this yo-yo dieting cycle. So I've now been working at Royal Prince Alfred Hospital and Sydney University for close to 2 decades. And this is not just with adults and helping them regain control of health and weight, but also with, I guess, families, educating parents and carers, getting them on board, getting them excited about a healthy lifestyle so that we can get or enable the next generation to sort of grow into a healthy weight and ensure that they don't have this same lifelong struggle with health and weight that many of us as parents and adults are going through. We know prevention is much better and easier than treatment. And once, unfortunately, you do sort of drive up your weight or your set point into that overweight or obesity weight range, it's very hard to regain control. So I guess another part of that is translating what I do into evidence-based information so the general public can put that into practice.
Which I think is really great because I've got a bunch of thinkers in my house who are very logical. I'm not. And every time I say something about something, they want it backed by research and science. A lot of the time, I don't
Good.
have that backing. And I'm like, oh, okay, then. And that's what I do love about the work that you do is that it is. And I actually am behind every single thing that you've written in your book. You had 3 books out, and then you now have the Healthy Parents, Healthy Kids. Now, what kind of clients do you have to make you want to write a book like that? Like, what was it that do people come and see you with? Parents come and see you with weight issues about themselves, or do they come and see you with weight issues about their kids?
It's both. Often adults are presenting with their own struggle. They're frustrated because they've tried every diet and weight loss program under the sun, but they are going through that cycle of weight loss followed by weight regain. And our research shows the reason that happens is because of our body going into shutdown. Several physiological changes take place within the body to ensure you go back to your start point. So your body's working against you. And unfortunately, the dieting industry don't want you to know that.
No.
They want you to make or make you think that you're failing due to a lack of willpower. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Most of us are extremely good at adhering to those strict diets, exercise programs, but you're up against your body, you're up against your own biology. You've got your metabolism lowering, you've got your appetite hormones going haywire, you've got your adrenal glands pumping out more cortisol, your thyroid gland being suppressed, your brain function changing, telling you to go and seek out high-calorie foods. These are all these physiological reactions taking place within your body to ensure you go back to your start point and put on a little bit of extra fat so you can prepare for that next bout of starvation. So we're dealing with that side of things. This is breaking that yo-yo dieting cycle, getting adults to follow evidence-based lifestyle intervention around diet, exercise, and sleep. We know if you're following healthcare professionals and evidence-based interventions, you do actually succeed. But most of us are stuck in that dieting or fad dieting cycle. Now, the other aspect of that, coming back to your question, is obviously more and more children are struggling with their weight and they're developing metabolic complications and diseases at an earlier age. We live in a very challenging environment when it comes to food and particularly other things like technology, which are disrupting our sleep health. We're not getting enough movement. So we're finding that overweight and obesity is creeping in at that childhood, adolescent stage. And if it does become evident, then it's more likely to persist into adulthood. And that's when it's very hard, remember, to regain control. So instead of focusing on weight with the children that are presenting to the clinics, we get the whole family on board. We get the parents and carers in there and we say, all right, what we're going to do is have a look at the habits in the family home. And then we educate them around evidence-based information, education when it comes to food, sleep, and physical activity. And we've found that there are 6 key pillars, which sort of excites the family, gets them on board, and they slowly implement them over time, again, allowing a child to grow into a healthy weight. We're never focusing on dieting. We're never focusing on food restriction. We stress the importance of monitoring the trend in weight over time and allowing them to grow into that healthy weight.
That's such great information. And I think our problem is too that as a society, like you say, we haven't looked at research. We haven't looked at the science behind all of this because you don't often hear the science behind this. Do you get what I mean? It's not as if you're out there. You are with your books, but it's not as if it's, I hate to say it, I really think you need to do some TikToks there, Nick, just to get to the right audiences, because I think that people really don't, a lot of people don't read these days. My kids don't read. My kids are, 31 and 29. They don't read. They watch. And when information like this comes across in a more social media way, they pay attention. But I totally agree with what you're doing and what you're saying, because I turned my kids' health around years ago with the Prince Halford diet for sensitive eaters. What was it called? The allergy diet. Took my kids off everything and fixed their illnesses. They had asthma, headaches. My daughter was carrying weight at the time, all that type of thing. So food is what did they say about food with Hippocrates? Food is your life, like it's your
It's a life
health.
source,
It is,
Eddie. Yes.
absolutely. And so therefore, when these people do it, what I do love about your book is there's so many additives and there's so much in our food today that you don't even pay attention to that. I spend my time saying to my kids, if there's more than 4 ingredients and there's numbers, colors, whatever, you don't buy it. Just get rid of it. Whereas you're just going, just choose the simple stuff. And that makes life so much simpler.
Yeah, and look, the number one thing that we're seeing parents and carers present to our clinics with in terms of, their child's diet and health is food fussiness. They just can't get their kids to eat healthy food. And it's usually the first challenge that we overcome. So I guess, if you're listening and you've got younger children or older children, it's something you're going to experience. All children go through this food fussiness. So don't think you're alone. That's the first thing to appreciate. Everyone's
Yeah.
going to go through it. It does tend to peak in the toddler age, around 3 years of age. But look, we see it creep in at 10 years of age. We see it creep in at the introduction of solids. It's going to come at some point in time, but we can overcome it. Now, the reason why we are fussy and why kids push back on those foods we spend time cooking in the kitchen is really a couple of different reasons. The first one is because we're constantly telling them what to do and when to do it. They have very little control over any aspect of their life. Now, food is one opportunity for them to say no. Mum, no, Dad, I don't like that. Or that food is yuck, or I'm not going to eat it. And then what's happening is we're giving into those food demands. We're worried as the parent that they're not going to get any food. And what do? We default to the white, beige, safe foods, the noodles, the bread, the pasta. And unfortunately, they're filling up on those foods which are low in fiber, low in nutrition. And then when it comes to mealtime, again, they're not eating those nutritious foods we're spending time cooking. So we're allowing them to dictate the food environment, and we're allowing them to tell us what they want on the plate. So that we can get to that later on, but that's the first sort of big issue as to why we're allowing food fussiness to take place. Now, the second is because from an evolutionary point of view, we evolved to seek out foods that are naturally high in sugar, naturally high in fat. There's an evolutionary tendency to move towards those foods and seek those foods out, and that's perfectly fine. These are nature's treats. But what we also learnt to do was leave the bitter-tasting vegetables in the environment because they were potentially harmful or toxic to our health. So you fast forward tens of thousands of years to the modern day environment, kids are always still going to push back on those bitter tasting vegetables, particularly if you serve them as standalone foods. And what I mean by that is sort of the meat and the 3 veg. So you're up against, I guess, the food environment. You're allowing your child to dictate that food environment because we're concerned as parents. It's extremely hard parenting, I know firsthand. And secondly, these, delicious fast foods are on every corner of every block. They're screaming out to us. Our kids scream out for that stuff, and we're giving into those food demands. But then you're up against that evolutionary barrier. So this is what we need to overcome by cooking, still simple, easy recipes, family favorites, but bring out all of those naturally occurring sugars so that kids actually get down to that food, get excited, and start to enjoy it.
And like you say, I love how you call it nature's treats, because when we discuss, you discuss treats in there, so we may as well talk about it now. Because when I was young, we were told that you couldn't leave the table until you finished what was on your plate, and we were bribed with a dessert. But as we did get older, Mum only had desserts on Sundays, so that was all good. But the bribery it's so easy to go, oh look, if you have that, I'll give you something else. You can have something, and then you've got the sweet, yummy thing at the end of it. And then obviously you're setting up very poor pattern of behavior for yourself and your child. And also you saying that the healthy food you're eating is actually not a treat. It's not yummy. It's not.
Exactly. You are creating these unhealthy associations with certain foods. So this is all about like the way we're dressing this with our families is and the food fussiness, battle, mealtime battle, particularly at the end of the day, is by cooking one family meal. Okay, even if you've got allergies and intolerances, you can still be doing that.
Yeah.
And getting kids excited by getting them to choose recipes when you're meal planning, if you've got a bit more time on the weekends, and then giving them a simple task when you're actually cooking that meal. A 2-year-old can still be picking the basil leaves off the stem and contributing to that meal.
Yeah.
Toddlers can be mixing ingredients together, and as they get older, they can start cooking themselves. So it's a key part of it. And then when you're serving up the meal, you must sit around the dinner table.
Yeah.
It's such
Yeah.
an important aspect that we've completely forgotten in the modern day environment. Yes, we're very time poor. We're running around from A to B, have very little time for ourselves and our family, but it's something we need to prioritize, because the data shows that if you do see mealtime as one of these fill them up and get them out type of scenarios, unfortunately, you're just contributing to this next generation of obesity and metabolic disease, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, etc., etc. Remember, this is what we need to prevent, and I want to keep reinforcing this. You want your child to have a healthy relationship with food, and remember to grow into a healthy weight so that they don't have this lifelong struggle with health and weight. So overcoming food fussiness, believe it or not, is actually quite easy, but you've got to put time and effort into it. You've got to get them excited, and you've got to get children cooking that meal with you. And then you remember you're going to start sitting together around a dining table, because monkey see, monkey do.
Yep.
If you're seen to be eating those healthy foods in front of them repeatedly over time and not giving into their food demands, remember that's what we need to stop doing as well. They then learn to enjoy and embrace that food that you're cooking and presenting them. And obviously they're going to be involved in it too, so they're more likely to try those creations. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen.
It does, and it does, and I also these days you've got those great stools that stand next to you in the kitchen. Didn't have those. We had to sit our kid on the kitchen surface. So you've got great stools that sit right next to you that they can do their mixing with. And it's also, like you say, it's changing your language too. It's not calling certain foods treats that are not good for you. It's calling everything that's a treat, basically. And I do want to advocate meal times. And what I want to say to people here is that I've spent the last 30 years trying to get my children to eat around a table, and we went through it, and there are times when you just sit there and go, oh my God, this is so not worth it, particularly in the teen years when I would correct manners, because this is also another spot where you get a chance to teach your child table manners, and table manners are really important in society. When you go out to dinner with people and you're eating, if you haven't actually even got that through to your children, how to hold a knife and fork. There are lots of kids out there who can't. How to eat, how to be with people. It's a very socializing aspect as well. And I had my son storm off many times from the dinner table because I'd tell him to chew with his mouth closed and all this type of stuff. And meal times would shut down very fast. But here we are. My children are 30 and 20, 31 and 29. They set the table every night when they come to dinner. They sit around the table, and my husband says, why do we have to eat around the table? And I say, because they want to. So it really is worth it. You know, like if you could tell anyone that story, it really is worth all of those struggles. And I went through what you're saying. You know, it was a pain in the neck. And we also, as parents who present food, feel really upset because they don't like our food and they're not eating. So you have to take that emotion out of it as well, that it's not about you. You know, like it's not about you, and that it's about the child and just this fussiness that is there naturally. And once you know that, deal with it.
100%. And you've really got to, I guess, rethink what that mealtime looks like. It is a battle at the end of the day, particularly if you've got tired children from school or daycare, depending on the age of your children. But look, the research shows that a meal in front of the TV lasts anywhere between 8 and 12 minutes. Now, a meal around the dinner table lasts anywhere between 30 to 40 minutes. Now, that
Yeah.
varies depending on the age of your children.
It does.
But there's so many benefits associated with that mealtime, the social and cultural aspect that you just highlighted, but also the appetite regulation system. Now, if you watch children, particularly young children, they're painfully slow at eating. Now, that is fantastic. Where there's so much that we can learn from that, because we wolf down that meal. We don't allow for the appetite signals to be produced from our gastrointestinal tract, acting on that clever part of the brain called the hypothalamus, telling us that we're full. So engage in conversation with your children. Watch how slow they eat. That's the pace we should be eating at. And then by role modeling these healthy habits, we're going to get a lot of health benefits from it too, and weight loss is often a side effect. So, it's remember coming down to these 6 key principles. One of them is overcoming food fussiness,
Yep.
retraining our child's brain back to nature's treats, the ones that are naturally found in the environment, the fruit, the papaya, the vegetables, the nuts and the seeds, the olive oils, the avocados. They release all those feel-good chemicals in the brain, the same chemicals that are getting released as what you get from the processed and fast foods. But the nature's treats fill you up for long periods of time, which means they're less likely to scream out for the processed and fast foods. And then the other key point there, just before mealtime, especially key meal times, when you have the opportunity to sit around a table together, make sure they're not having a meal or a snack for 1 to 2 hours beforehand, because you've got to allow them the opportunity to actually be hungry and try that meal. And if you do fill them up on that sort of packet food, the white beige food, not long before dinner, well, they're going to sit down and they're not going to be hungry. And what we don't want to be doing is forcing them to eat, bribing them to eat. That is the wrong way to approach it. Kids are extremely good at regulating their appetite or calorie intake across the course of the day. So some meals are going to eat huge volumes of food, and the next meal they might eat like a sparrow. So do not be concerned, but you must be strong in your ways, and you must be role modeling these healthy behaviors and seem to be eating the food in front of them. If you're in the corner eating the chips, what do they want? They want the chips.
course they
If
do.
you're on the phone
Yeah.
while you're eating dinner in front of them, what do they want? They want the phone. So you have to keep role modeling the healthy behavior.
Yeah. And that is tough as a parent to keep role modeling too. And being, how hard do you find it as a parent? How old are your children?
Extremely hard, and I don't want to take away from the efforts of the parent in the modern day environment. We're
No.
extremely time poor. We're running from
You
A
are.
to B.
Mm.
We have very little time for ourselves, but we do know that it is such a crucial window. It's such a crucial aspect of raising healthy and happy children, and consistently drumming in those behaviors. You gave some great examples about even manners around the dinner table. But you never know what you're going to learn from your child or adolescent during that dinner time too. Sometimes they actually communicate things to you that you didn't even know was a struggle in their life. And that could have been bullying at school. It could be anything.
Yeah.
There's so many things that we find our parents sort of understand and that comes out during that mealtime. So see it as more than just getting them to overcome the food fussiness, but actually enjoying that time with you and feeling confident to be able to talk to you about their day.
Yeah.
Because
Building
it's
relationships, because that's
building
what you're doing, aren't you?
relationships.
And yeah. And what can I say? One thing there too. This is from what the work I do. And listen to your children. Don't tell them what to do while they're at the dinner table, because then you will have them walking away. And listening is amazing. I highly recommend the dinner table and just keeping your mouth closed, asking questions, and just listening to answers. And now, what are the other steps you have? Have we got to our 4? Where are we sitting?
So we've talked about, retraining our kids' brain, reaching for nature first, getting them hooked on nature's treats and away from the processed and packaged foods. We've got to be bringing them home and surrounding the household environment with them. When they're hungry, we're offering nature's treats. They cut up vegetable sticks with, hummus and dips like that. They're more likely to enjoy them. Remember, we're going to be cooking family meals. It can be simple favorites like your pies and your bolognese, but we're adding variety. So instead of always the beef bolognese, it could be beef and vegetable, lentil bolognese. Instead of your beef pie, it could be the beef and vegetable pie. You're allowing them to sort of overcome that evolutionary barrier that they're up against, and that's breaking down the bitter tasting vegetables and allowing them to bring out all those naturally occurring sugars. When you mix all those ingredients together, kids actually love the food you're presenting them. And remember, we've not got to give in to those demands. We've got to keep offering the food in a variety of different ways. They will say no at the first time. They'll say no at the 6th time. It might be the 10th time that they actually go, yes, you know what? This is what I've been presented, and this is what I'm going to try. And also, this is what I have learnt to actually enjoy. So you've got to persist with that and not give in to those food demands. So that sort of encompasses a lot of it in terms of variety, reaching for nature first, the importance of mealtime. And we're also growing into a healthy weight. We're not focusing on dieting. So a big part of the messaging and one of the key principles there is health, not weight.
Yes, yeah, which I think is excellent because we do concentrate too much on it, and then we've got a whole another set of problems coming through with our children as well. One of the questions I do want to ask you is when I took all my kids off food colorings, preservatives, everything when they were 10 and 12. And I had always been one that said, oh, look, they can have a treat every now and then. And I had a friend that was very strong on everything being as you're discussing now. And her children used to, when they were in the situation of going to someone else's house, overeat like just smorgasbord on all the lollies and all the treats. And they had no filter. They were unable to stop because they hadn't had any in their everyday lives. What do you recommend to people about the occasional commercialized treat?
Healthy parents, healthy kids is all about allowing your children to have treats.
Yep.
Okay. But
Good.
what we are highlighting is that they're not the everyday occurrence.
That's right.
Now, at the moment, they are the everyday occurrence. We're giving our kids, the processed packaged snack foods in the lunch boxes or when we go out to the playground or whatever it might be. They've become more than the occasion, like the once a week. So we've got to retrain them back to nature's treats. And when they want the treat food, whether it's the ice cream or the chocolate, fantastic. You allow them to enjoy that.
Yep.
You probably enjoy that with them at the same time. But you educate them on the fact that, certain foods are the occasional foods because they don't provide a lot of nutrition. They don't provide a lot of vitamins, minerals, fiber, which our body needs to grow and develop, adequately and healthily. So kids love learning about food. You've got to tap into that innate curiosity, educate them along the way. And again, healthy parents, healthy kids helps you do that because us as parents often we're caught up in a lot of misconceptions and untruthful information when it comes to food. We've picked that up over the years, particularly when it comes to this whole low carb movement, the F word fat. We're worried about foods like nuts and seeds and dairy because it's high in fat. Now, this is all nonsense. So we do need to unlearn a lot of that information, which we've picked up from the dieting industry, all the big name celebrities, all the social media sensations, which we were talking about before. And again, listen to the science, listen to evidence-based information, listen to healthcare professionals that actually know what they're talking about. They may not be sexy, but trust me, they know what they're talking about. And this is what we've got to start pushing people towards.
Yes. Yeah, we absolutely do. Because otherwise it is an epidemic of obesity. And I think that people realizing that they're modeling behaviors too is extremely important in all of this as well. Thank you, Nick. You've given us so much to think about and love your work, love what you do. When we next get together, we're going to discuss screen time and exercise. So thank you so much for sharing everything with us today.
Thanks, Kay. Thanks very much for having me on.
That's fantastic, Nick. Nick has shared a wealth of evidence-based insights that we can all reflect on and apply in our daily lives. Before we wrap up, there's a few questions to consider or discuss with your family to make the most of what you've learned. First of all, are you all consistently sitting down with your family for meals? And if not, what small steps can you take this week to create a regular mealtime routine? And what changes could you make to prioritise nature's treats in your household? Because what habits are you modelling during meals and snack times? Are there any behaviours like eating while you're on your phone or choosing processed foods that you could adjust to encourage healthier choices? When your children reject healthy foods, how do you typically respond? Can you try a new approach like offering the same food in several different ways or involving them in the meal prep? As you think about these questions, remember that small, consistent steps can lead to big changes over time. Parenting is hard, but creating healthy food habits for your family is worth the effort. Next week, we'll be taking a look at screen time and exercise, so stay tuned for some more practical tips and thoughtful discussions. So have a great day, and let's keep building on those healthy habits together. Thank you for listening to Parenting and Personalities. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you could leave a rating and a review that would help others learn about this podcast. If you're interested in discovering more about you and your family's personality types, you'll find my book, Who Is This Monster or Treasure in My House, on Booktopia or Amazon. If you have an episode idea, please send a note to thepersonalitycoach@gmail.com. Many thanks to our producers at Stories and Strategies, and we'll see you next time.